Hello and good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Hafiz Marzuki. Malaysia has launched a chip design hub in Selangor to boost the semiconductor industry and attract foreign investments. Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli says the government aims for more data centers in Malaysia to use locally designed chips.
Malaysia has sought to enhance its chip design capabilities and move up from testing and packing, which are considered less complex and of lower value. Rafizi said the growing interest in data centers would continuously drive demand for semiconductors, but the country hoped to move away from using chips designed elsewhere. Located in Puchong, the Malaysia Semiconductor IC Design Park's partners include software maker Cadence Design Systems and chip company ARM Holdings. Malaysia's semiconductor industry aims to double its exports to 1.2 trillion ringgit by 2030, cementing its position as the sixth largest chip exporter in the world.
All future housing projects must allocate 1 or 2 blocks for affordable Madani units to help lower income groups own homes. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim says the government was willing to expedite approvals if developers meet all requirements.
Tumpu bukan dia pembangunan perumahan biasa, tapi perumahan madani untuk menyantuni kepentingan bukan saja penjawat awam, tapi kelompok B40, M40 yang lebih susah. Orang-orang kaya dibuatlah rumah banyak mana pun, berapa harga 10 juta pun dibuatlah, saya tak peduli. Kita ada tanah, kita beri pada dia, tak ada masalah. Tetapi orang rakyat yang lain harus dibantu.
It was reported that the Madani Inclusive Housing Pilot Project would target groups in major cities such as Kuala Lumpur, Selangor and Penang. Anwar, who is also Finance Minister, said the move is necessary to address the complex housing issues in Malaysia, adding that past housing projects have failed to emphasize the importance of affordable housing for the people. Madani housing in Kuala Lumpur will be led by the Federal Territories Department through Kuala Lumpur City Hall.
Meta Platforms has apologised for the removal of Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim's content on Facebook and Instagram. They paid tribute to the late Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. In a statement, Meta said it was an operational error, adding that the content had been restored with the correct newsworthy label.
The statement followed a meeting between Meta and Communications Minister Fahmi Fadzil and members of the Prime Minister's Office, PMO, yesterday. The PMO had also earlier asked Meta for an explanation and a public apology after the posts expressing condolences over Haniyeh's death were removed. Anwar posted on Facebook and Instagram on July 31st a video recording of his phone call with a Hamas official to offer condolences over Haniyeh's death and a picture from his last meeting with Haniyeh in Qatar in May. The posts were taken down by Meta with a caption referring to dangerous individuals and organizations.
The government proposes stricter penalties for those found driving under the influence of drugs, even if they are not involved in any accident. Transport Minister Anthony Loke said the proposal will be tabled during the 3rd Parliament session in October after further discussions with ministry officials and relevant departments.
Loke said the proposal would require amendments to Section 45A under the Road Transport Act 1987. He said the existing law regarding driving under the influence of drugs is less strict compared to drunk driving, which provides for a maximum penalty of a fine of 10,000 ringgit and 2-year imprisonment. Loke added that currently, drivers who take drugs can only be prosecuted if they cause road accidents and only have their license suspended if they do not cause any accidents. His remarks came after a 5-day special operation starting on August 1st, which found that 1 out of 13 commercial drivers had tested positive for drugs.
Marine Department Director General Captain Muhammad Halim Ahmed has gone on leave following his indictment at the Sessions Court last week. Transport Minister Anthony Loke confirmed that Halim was instructed to vacate his office while the trial is ongoing. Loke explained that this order is a common procedure in the public service. It was previously reported that Muhammad Halim was charged in the Sessions Court last Thursday with attempting to deceive the then Director General of the Marine Department in 2020, Dato' Baharin Abdul Hamid, using a letter from the Ministry of Transport. At that time, Muhammad Halim was the Maritime Division Secretary at the Ministry of Transport. Muhammad Halim was charged under Section 417 of the Penal Code, which provides for a maximum imprisonment of 5 years or a fine or both if convicted. However, he pleaded not guilty to the charge. The Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Ministry has conducted engagement sessions between various stakeholders to gather ideas for Budget 2025. Minister Dato' Armizan Muhammad Ali says 2 sessions had been carried out with the retail sector and consumer groups to discuss issues related to the cost of living.
Contohnya, Alhamdulillah, penyasaran subsidi dibuat terhadap diesel, ada budi badani, SKDS diperluaskan. Inilah antara perkara yang kita harapkan di KPDN yang kita laksanakan. Minggu lepas saya juga telah duduk bersama Kementerian Ekonomi, Kementerian Kewangan, dengan Khazanah, Research Institute, dengan Bank Negara untuk melihat bagaimana kita dapat strengthen dan menambah baik aspek penyaluran bantuan dan juga perlindungan sosial kepada masyarakat kita. Jadi setakat ini itu yang saya ingin kongsikan.
Armizan said the outcomes have been presented to the cabinet and that some of the issues raised involved other ministries as well. He said that 2 weeks ago, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim instructed all ministries to hold engagement sessions to gather input for Budget 2025, expected to be tabled in the Dewan Rakyat on October 18th.
We'll go for a short break. Stay with us.
Kalau aku hilang, aku rasa diorang tak perasan pun aku kan.
Dah takkan nak buat macam tu kan?
Gantilah. Ingat tanggungjawab.
Selama aku hidup, mak dengan abah selalu lupakan aku.
Barang ke mana?
Barang kau dah hangus lah.
Kau nak apa?
Bagi je 10 juta. Settle lah kan?
Abah.
Exchange. Stream episod baharu setiap Jumaat on demand dan Astro Premier.
Bangladesh's parliament has been dissolved a day after Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned and fled the country following weeks of unrest. A statement from the President's office also says that Bangladesh Nationalist Party chairperson Begum Khalida Zia has been freed from house arrest. Organisers of student-led protests are scheduled to meet army officials, warning that they will not accept a military-led government. Key organisers of the protest had proposed Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus to head the new interim government. They said Yunus has agreed to be chief advisor of the interim government and would return to Bangladesh after a minor medical procedure in Paris, France. In January, a Bangladesh court sentenced Yunus to 6 months in jail for violating the country's labour laws, which he has criticised as being politically motivated. Yunus and his Grameen Bank were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for their pioneering work in micro-lending back in 2006. Student protests in Bangladesh began in July with calls to abolish civil service job quotas, but escalated into demands for Hasina to step down after 15 years in power. Thousands of demonstrators stormed her residence and other buildings associated with her party and family on Monday. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has asked supporters to remove the WhatsApp application from their phones, claiming it is being used by fascists to spread violence. He says he will be switching to Telegram and Chinese messaging app WeChat.
Earlier, at a meeting with military personnel, the politician accused TikTok and Instagram of spreading hatred in Venezuela. His attack on social media platforms comes on the heels of a wave of repression by his regime against any resistance to his self-declared win in the recent presidential election. This is a stark contrast to Maduro's efforts to soften his image through social media channels prior to the election. Maduro also repeatedly blamed opposition leader Maria Corina Machado and her stand-in candidate Edmundo Gonzalez for the ensuing protests after they published documents alleging his election win was fraudulent. He has filed a petition with the High Court to review the election results and has also initiated investigations against the opposition.
Several countries have urged their nationals to leave Lebanon as fears grow of a wider conflict in the Middle East. South Korea became the latest country to urge its nationals in Lebanon and Israel to leave as soon as possible. On Monday, countries including the US, the UK and France have urged their citizens to leave Lebanon after the US said it was sending additional warships to the region. Lebanon on Monday also received emergency medical supplies to equip its hospitals for possible war injuries amid fears of a full-scale conflict on the horizon. The region is on high alert after Iran vowed revenge on Israel, which it blames for the assassination of Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran last week. Haniyeh's death came just hours after an Israeli strike on Beirut that killed Hezbollah's most senior military commander, Fuad Shukr. Meanwhile, Lebanon's government on Tuesday said it was trying to prevent a Hezbollah response against Israel that could start a wider war. Over in the UK, more nations issued safety warnings to their citizens due to the ongoing anti-immigration protests and riots. India has joined Nigeria, Australia, Indonesia, and even Malaysia to send out alerts advising their nationals living in or visiting the UK to stay away from demonstrations.
The High Commission of India in London said they were closely monitoring the situation as they advised visitors from India to stay vigilant and exercise caution while travelling in the UK. On Monday, Australia issued a similar warning and advised travellers to avoid areas where protests are occurring, urging people to monitor the media for information and updates. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Monday said a standing army of specialist police would be set up. He also promised swift criminal sanctions to check violent riots across the country over the past week. Violence had broken out in several towns and cities in England and Northern Ireland following the killing of 3 young girls at a dance class in Southport last week.
A US federal court has found that Google abused its market power to quash competition in internet search by spending billions of dollars to create an illegal monopoly. The landmark decision is a major blow to Alphabet, Google's parent company, and could reshape how technology giants do business.
In 2020, the US Department of Justice sued Google over its control of the online search market. This lawsuit is one of several filed against big tech companies as US antitrust authorities attempt to strengthen competition in the industry. Currently, Google controls about 90% of the online search market and 95% of the smartphone search market in the US. It is unclear what penalties Google and its parent company, Alphabet, will face. Fines or other remedies will be decided in a future hearing. Alphabet has stated it plans to appeal against the ruling.
That wraps up this edition of AWANI Tonight. I'm Hafiz Marzuki. Thanks for watching and good night.